So hey guys, how are you all? Welcome to. So we are back with a brand new movie on what if Naruto was gift mystical power to child of monster in Percy Jackson universe movie, but before we start, be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video. Now let's begin the story. Near the end on Long Island stood the hidden camp, which was a safe haven for half-bloods ours the Greek gods, and today it was a regular day for the campers who were all doing their assigned activities for the day. One of said campers was a young teen girl with a bulky build who had a spear on her back as she looked around the strawberry fields for a bit before sighing in annoyance. This was Clarice LaRue, daughter of Ares, age 14. Looking for someone, Clarice? A young teen girl asked as she approached while carrying a basket of strawberries. She had long black hair and was wearing the same orange camp half-blood shirt as all the other campers. This was Selena Beauregard, daughter of Aphrodite, age 14. Have you seen that newbie? Chiron asked me to bring him to archery practice, Clarice asked with an annoyed tone. Chiron asked you to bring him? Selena asked curiously, as she knew Clarice very rarely bothered with new campers unless they were fellow children of Ares. Yes, he did. I don't see why I should be the one to range that idiot, Clarice said with a scowl at this. Well, his mom is from your cabin, so you're technically family, right? Selena asked curiously. Don't remind me. Now have you seen him? Clarice said with a scowl at this. I saw him earlier when he was helping with the harvest before he ran off towards the woods, Selena said as she pointed at said woods. Clarice nodded in thanks at this before she walked towards the woods to find her fellow camper. In the woods, in one of the treetops in the woods, sat a young blonde teen with blue eyes. Besides the customary camp outfit everyone wore, he was also wearing what looked like a red scarf with what looked like bronze woven into it around his neck. This was Naruto Uzumaki, age 14. Currently he was relaxing and clearing his head as he sat in a treetop, as he always felt at ease when he sat in a tree for some reason. As Naruto looked up at the clear sky, he thought back to the incident that had resulted in him being brought to this camp by his mom. Flashback a few weeks. It was a bright sunny day as Naruto and the rest of his class were being led into the San Diego Zoo for a school field trip. Okay everyone, stay together and try not to cause any problems, the teacher said to everyone before his eyes stopped as he looked at Naruto. Naruto rolled his eyes at this as he knew that was more aimed at him than anyone else. I wouldn't start anything if Amy and her squad of losers would leave me alone, he thought to himself as he looked to the side at a fellow student who was female with short hair that was dyed dark purple, who was giving him a smirk along with her friends as everyone started to follow the teacher. After some time looking at some of the different animals in their habitats, the class soon approached what looked like a giant monkey cage with trees and rocks for them. As they approached, the monkeys looked bored and just ignored the students, but when Naruto took a look, some of the monkeys perked up and started paying attention and looking at the class. Oh wow, they almost never do this. Get your pictures now, people, one of the zoo handlers said with a smile at the class. All of the students took out their phones hoping to get some good pictures of the monkeys. Naruto smiled as he too got ready to take some pictures, but suddenly he felt himself get jerked back by his neck, causing him to fall onto the ground. Out of the way, Uzumaki, Amy said with a smirk as she let go of Naruto's scarf, which she had yanked on to make Naruto move out of her and her friend's way so they could get a better shot. Naruto scowled at this as he rubbed his neck, but before he could respond, screech. Suddenly the cages to the monkey habitat started to shake as the monkeys jumped onto the front of the cages and started to bang their fists against the cage while screeching at Amy and her friends. Whoa, what the heck? Amy said as everyone in the class jumped back in surprise at this. Okay everyone, back, you don't want them to grab at you, the zoo handler said to the class as he looked surprised at this, as this group of monkeys were always even-tempered even with the worst of guests. Or you could move closer so I can get a good shot, Naruto joked as he stood up and held up his phone with a smirk. Oh, shut up you. Ah, let me go, Amy was saying to Naruto before one of the monkeys grabbed her by her hair and pulled her close. This caused everyone in the class to yell in a panic as the zoo handlers ran over to try and get the monkey to let the young teen go. Naruto blinked at this before he smiled and held up his phone and took a picture just as the monkey ripped off some of Amy's hair and held it up to his own head, causing the other monkeys to clap and hoot in approval. Flashback end. Naruto chuckled at the memory, as even though he got blamed for what happened at the zoo and got expelled from school, it was still worth it to see Amy end up with a bald spot. After that had happened, Naruto's mom Kushina had decided to take him out on a road trip to Long Island, and on the way she had explained a lot to him about how she was a demigod or half-blood and he was one too, as his dad, who he had never met, was a god too. He had asked if that meant if he was quarter human, but his mom had just slapped the back of his head and told him to stop being a smart ass. Naruto sighed as he stood up and sat on the tree branch as he looked down at his scarf, which his mom said his dad had left for him, which was why he wore it all the time. Here's hoping dad claims me soon, Naruto thought to himself with a sigh, as while he didn't mind staying in the Hermes cabin, he was curious who his dad was. "Hey Uzumaki!" A voice yelled up at Naruto, getting his attention. Naruto looked down at the ground and saw it was Clarice looking up at him with an annoyed look. "Hey, what's up, auntie?" Naruto said with a grin at the daughter of Ares as he started to climb down the tree. "Didn't I tell you not to call me that, you idiot?" Clarice growled out as she glared at the blonde, annoyed at the nickname he had been using for her since they had met. "Am I wrong?" Naruto asked with a grin as he jumped down to the ground after he climbed down low enough. Clarice growled in annoyance at this as she reached for the spear on her back. Okay, so what did you need?" Naruto asked as he held his hand up in a peaceful manner. "Chiron wanted me to bring you to him," Clarice said as she turned around and walked away to lead Naruto away. "Lead the way, auntie," Naruto said as he followed after Clarice, whose eyebrows started to twitch in annoyance. Archery range. At the archery field, campers were being instructed by what looked like a centaur who was giving instruction while waiting for Clarice to arrive. This was Chiron, trainer of heroes. "You still waiting on that new kid?" a older man said, getting Chiron's attention. Said man was wearing a yellow and white shirt and had black hair that was graying along with a beard. This was Dionysus, the Greek god of wine and grape harvest, but to everyone at camp he was called Mr. D. "Indeed, I want to see if Mr. Uzumaki has any talent with a bow," Chiron said with a nod at the god. Dionysus paused at this before he looked at Chiron with some interest. "Oh, so this is her kid?" he asked curiously. Chiron nodded at this before he spotted Clarice approaching with Naruto close behind her. "Ah, there you are, Clarice and Naruto," he said as he greeted the two campers with a wave. "There, I brought him now. If you excuse me, I have better things to do," Clarice said with a gruff tone as she walked away, leaving Naruto with the centaur. "Later, auntie," Naruto yelled after the daughter of Ares, getting laughs from the other campers at the archery range before Clarice glared at them, making them go silent before she continued to walk. "You have your mother's sense of humor, Mr. Uzumaki," Chiron said with a shake of his head. "Who's kidding? Now she mentioned you wanted to see me for something," Naruto said as he looked at the centaur. "Indeed, I wanted to see if you had any talent with a bow, so let's get started," Chiron said as he led Naruto to where they kept the bows. "Cool, if you teach me to shoot I can teach you to regret teaching me to shoot," Naruto said with a smile as he grabbed a bow. This got a groan from Mr. D as he held his head. "Definitely that woman's brat," he said as he recalled Kushina saying these exact words when she was a camper and first picked up a bow. "Oh, relax, Mom said to say that to see your reaction, and I gotta say it didn't disappoint," Naruto said with a smile as he looked away from the target to look at Mr. D. "Focus on your target," Chiron said to Naruto with a firm tone. Oh shit, incoming," Naruto said as looked at Chiron at this before he accidentally let go of the string of his bow, letting loose the loaded arrow, sending it flying and causing it to go past some satyrs who were walking nearby before they quickly jumped out of the way, causing the arrow to hit a tree. "Let's see how you handle a blade instead," Chiron said with a sigh while other campers looked at Naruto annoyed or with amusement. "At least he didn't fire into the Aphrodite cabin like his mother did," Mr. D said with a shake of his head. "My mom accidentally did that?" Naruto asked as Chiron handed him a Greek blade and shield. "Who said it was an accident?" Mr. D asked as he drank some cola. Naruto blinked at this before he chuckled at this before he got to work trying to learn how to handle a blade. Later, Naruto groaned as he sat in the mass hall covered in bruises and a few cuts after his day of training with his fellow campers. "Rough day?" a older teen boy asked as he sat at Naruto's table. Said teen boy had curly black hair and athletic build, seeing as he had been at camp longer than Naruto. This was Luke, son of Hermes. "Pretty sure every day is a rough day," Naruto said casually. "Yay, I heard training didn't go well for you today. The satyrs are saying you almost took one of them out with a stray arrow," Luke said with a chuckle. "That was an accident, I got distracted," Naruto said with a sigh. "Don't worry about it, we all started out stumbling before we found what we were good at here," Luke said as he patted Naruto on the shoulder. "Thanks, I just wish I had some talent with something here at camp," Naruto said with a sigh. "From what I recall, you were giving even the older campers trouble at the climbing wall," Luke said with a chuckle, remembering how Naruto had easily beaten everyone who had tried to race him up the climbing wall, even himself, which he found impressive. "Great, I can fight monsters by climbing," Naruto said with a frown. Luke laughed at this before he stood up. "Don't worry, you will be okay, just keep at it," he said as he walked away from the table with a wave to go chat with his fellow campers from the Hermes cabin. Naruto sighed at this as went back to his food along with everyone else. Later, it was now the middle of the night and Naruto was now in the forest overlooking the Camp L. More specifically, he was again sitting in a tree branch. Naruto sighed as he looked at the camp as if he didn't mind it from what little time he had been spending here. Was this all he was supposed to do? Just train and hope something happens? As he was lost in his thoughts, Naruto heard something down below and looked down and saw what looked like a young satyr running towards his tree, more specifically towards camp. What's got him so jumpy? Naruto mused before he jumped down to a lower branch and made his way down before he dropped down in front of the young satyr. Gah! The satyr yelled in surprise at Naruto suddenly appearing in front of him. You look like you're in a hurry. Everything okay? Naruto asked the satyr. I need to get help. There's a monster at the barrier, the satyr yelled as he ran past Naruto. Naruto blinked at this before his eyes narrowed at this before he ran in the direction where the satyr had just came from. He soon saw through the trees what looked like a creature that was part man and part bull holding a woman that was fading away into gold dust before what looked like a young man with short curly hair yelling as he charged at the creature while wielding a celestial bronze sword. Naruto scowled as the boy was backhanded by the creature. Hey, he yelled, getting the creature's attention. You're the minotaur, right? You want to pick on someone, pick on me, he yelled as he jerked a thumb at his chest. The minotaur roared at this and charged at Naruto, ready to impale him with his horns. Naruto ran at the minotaur and as it got close he slid onto his knees and slid underneath the monster. But as he did this, the end of his scarf suddenly shot out and wrapped around the minotaur's neck before jerking hard on him, causing the minotaur to flip over and slam onto his back as Naruto slid away from him. Since when can this thing do that? Naruto asked as he stood up, smiled, his scarf came back to him and waved at him a bit in greeting. While this was happening, the boy ran at the minotaur with a yell with his blade as the creature stood up and swung his first at the charging. Hey, wait for me, newbie! Naruto yelled as he ran after the boy, his scarf flying at the minotaur and grabbing his fist, stopping the fist and giving the boy the chance to slice off one of the minotaur's horns, making it yell in pain before Naruto slugged the beast in the knee, making it fall to one knee before Naruto's scarf slugged the beast in the head, making it jerk back with such force its neck broke with an audible snap. Wow, you're strong for a scarf, Naruto said to his scarf as it pulled back to him. The scarf just pointed at the boy who had fallen to the ground, obviously exhausted from the recent battle. Oh geez. You okay, newbie? Naruto yelled as he ran to the boy while the body of the minotaur started to fade away into dust. As Naruto ran over to check on the boy, Chiron along with some other campers had just arrived, weapons ready along with the satyr that had. Welcome to Camp Percy Jackson, we have been expecting you, Chiron said as he looked at the boy. Instead of answering this, the now named Percy just passed out. Chiron sighed at this before he looked at a female camper that had dark skin and had her hair in braids. Annabeth, help Naruto take him to the medical hut and keep an eye on him as he recovers, he said to the young girl. The now named Annabeth nodded at this as she approached Naruto and helped him carry Percy off. A few days later, after getting Percy into a bed and having him take some ambrosia, Naruto and Annabeth were now standing watch over Percy as he slept and checking on him. So is this normal for when new campers arrive? Naruto asked curiously as he looked at Annabeth. Well, we can't all have a half-blood parent scare off monsters while we grow up, Annabeth said with a cold tone as she didn't look at Naruto and kept her eyes on Percy. Naruto slightly winced at this as he could see why him not being attacked while on the way here would make other campers resent him a bit. As Naruto felt guilty about this, his scarf reached over to Annabeth and flicked her ear. Hey! Annabeth yelled in annoyance at this as she turned and glared at the scarf, which made a taunting waving motion at her before pulling back to Naruto's side. I think it has a mind of its own, Naruto said with a sheepish chuckle at the scarf. Yay, well, keep some control over it, Annabeth said as she lightly glared at the scarf, which was giving her a come-on gesture. Naruto, seeing this, patted it on the head, making it pause before it went back Naruto's side. Where did you get that thing? Annabeth asked curiously after a few moments of silence. My mom gave it to me when I was a kid, said it was left for me by my dad. I guess it's special, huh? Naruto asked as he looked at the scarf before he looked at Annabeth with a friendly smile. My mom Athena gave me a gift too, though she didn't give it to me until I proved myself here, Annabeth said with a firm tone. Godly parents, huh? Naruto said casually as he leaned back against a wall. You said it, Annabeth said as she walked out of the cabin. Naruto shrugged at the daughter of Athena leaving, and after a few moments the satyr that had arrived with Percy walked into the room, now wearing a camp half-blood shirt. Sup, Goatman? Naruto said kindly as he held his hand up in greeting. Oh. Hi Naruto, right? The Goatman asked as he looked at Naruto. Yay, that's me, I arrived here a few weeks ago, Naruto said as he nodded at the satyr. Hey, my name is Grover. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you too, Grover. So I'm gonna guess you're friends with Percy here? Naruto asked as he gestured to the resting half-blood. Yeah, I was placed as his protector. I was wondering how that worked for other half-bloods, Naruto said with a nod of understanding. Well, not all, Grover was saying before he was cut off. Yeah, I heard that line already, buddy, Naruto said, interrupting him. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to be rude, Grover said as he frowned slightly. It's fine. So you know my mom? Naruto asked as he waved his hand, showing he wasn't offended. Kinda hard not to. She left quite the mark as a hero on the quests she went on, Grover said as he nodded. Huh, to me she was just mom, Naruto said with a chuckle at this, as while he knew his mom was tough, he didn't think she was a hero who had earned glory like so many campers wanted to be. Before Grover could respond to this, they all heard a groan coming from Percy's bed, and when they both looked they saw Percy was waking up. It's okay, you're safe, Grover said as Percy looked around a bit in a panic. Percy relaxed a bit at this before he looked at the table nearby where the cut-off horn of the minotaur was sitting. From what I hear, killing a bug monster like that is seen as a big deal, and seeing as you cut off the horn I figured you could have it. Nice reflexes, by the way, Naruto said as he waved at Percy in greeting. Did either of you see what happened to my mom? Percy asked as he ignored what Naruto said. Yes, I did, Naruto said with a frown at this, as he had been told who the woman the minotaur had grabbed was by Chiron. I'm sorry, Percy, as I had told you sooner or been a better protector than your mom would still be, Grover was saying before he was cut off. Please just stop, Percy said as he covered his face with his hand, obviously upset. I know this isn't easy, but I think we should talk about it, Grover said to his friend as he got up out of his bed. Yay, well, I don't. Your job was to get me here alive. Your job is done, Percy said with a firm tone as he went to leave the room. Where are you going? Grover asked after his friend. It was so important I get here cause my father is a god, so I'm going to go find him, Percy said as he left the room. Naruto winced at this, as he could tell from how Percy was talking that he was now resentful of his dad a bit. Grover sighed at this as he looked down at the ground. Hey, don't worry, I'm sure things will work out once he learns how things work here, just give him some time, Naruto said to Grover as he patted the satyr on the shoulder. Thanks, Grover said with a nod of appreciation at Naruto for his words. No problem, Naruto said as he nodded back before he left the room, as he had some training to do with Luke, as he still wanted to try and get him trained in some form of combat. It had been a few days since Percy woke up, and Naruto was currently heading for the mess hall for dinner along with the other campers. As he approached, he spotted Percy, who was sitting with Luke. Hey, newbie, how's camp life treating you? Naruto asked as he sat next to Luke and across from Percy. I'm fine. Luke's been showing me the ropes, Percy said as he nodded at Naruto in greeting. Yay, I have just been answering his questions, Luke said as he greeted Naruto. So how did he do with practice today? Naruto asked Luke curiously. Not too bad, actually has some talent with a blade at least, Luke said with a smile at Percy. Aw man, Naruto groaned as he slumped his shoulders a bit. Tough luck, buddy, Luke said as he patted Naruto on the shoulder. He's not good with a blade? Percy asked Luke curiously. Afraid not, though I'm sure there is something I'm good at here that can help out around here, Naruto said with a sigh. So have you been claimed yet? Percy asked curiously, deciding to get to know the blonde a bit. Not yet, though I do have some family here, so it's not exactly bothering me that I haven't been claimed yet, Naruto said as he shrugged a bit. So it doesn't bother you that your godly parent hasn't claimed you yet? Percy asked curiously, as this had bothered him for a bit and he was wondering what Naruto's mentality was. Not really, my mom says that if I prove myself then my dad will claim me soon, Naruto said with a smile. Any ideas who your dad is? Luke asked curiously, as he knew that kids from certain cabins had certain traits in common and Naruto didn't have any of those traits. Not a clue, mom wouldn't tell me a thing when pressed something about ruining dad's plan or something, Naruto said with a shrug as his scarf moved and grabbed a plate of food off a tray of food a nymph was bringing out to the campers before placing it in front of Naruto. That thing at least gives you a bit of uniqueness now, Luke said with a chuckle, while Percy's eyes widened in surprise at the living scarf, who waved at him before going lifeless again. Yay, I still need a name for it. I mean, every weapon needs a name, right? Naruto asked as he started to eat his food. The scarf started to signal at this as if it was trying to tell them something. I think it's trying to tell you something, Percy said as he raised an eyebrow at this. The scarf gave a nod at this before it reached over to the ground and started to draw into the dirt before coming back to Naruto. Tama? Luke asked, reading what the scarf had wrote in the dirt. It means guardian spirit, so that's your name, huh? Naruto asked with a smile at the scarf, who nodded at them as they went back to their food. Later, it was now night time and Naruto was walking towards the restroom to get cleaned up for the night, but as he approached the cabin where that was he noticed Clarice and her fellow campers from the Ares cabin shoving Percy into the restroom before entering after him. Naruto slightly frowned at this as these were campers from his mom's cabin and he knew if he did something then he would most likely end up being outcast by the Ares cabin. As he thought about this he remembered someone his mom had told him. If you can help your friends you do it, damn the consequences. Naruto nodded at this before he made his way towards the restroom cabin and entered it. What the hell is this? Naruto asked with a firm tone as he saw two Ares campers about to shove Percy's head into a toilet while Clarice watched. Just welcoming the so-called minotaur killer, Clarice said with a smirk. Naruto scowled at this before he approached Clarice. This is how you prove yourself? By being a bully? He asked as he shoved Clarice in the shoulder, surprising her and the two Ares campers. Stay out of this, Clarice said as she gave Naruto a heated glare. Make me, Auntie, Naruto said firmly while putting emphasis on the last word as while he had said it before light-heartedly, now he was saying it mockingly. Before Clarice could retaliate the toilet, Percy was standing over exploded and water shot at the two Ares campers and Clarice sending them all out of the restroom cabin. Naruto blinked in surprise at this before he looked at Percy who was covered in water also surprised at what had happened. Naruto then looked at Clarice and her two friends who were standing up and glaring at Percy obviously ready to try and attack again. Before Naruto stepped forward blocking their path, "You don't want to do that," Naruto said with a firm tone as he glared at Clarice while Tama extended itself and made a fist before punching a tree nearby, cracking the bark of the tree for emphasis. This made Clarice's friends pause in surprise as while they had heard about Naruto's scarf they obviously didn't know that it was strong. "Come on, we can do this some other time," Clarice said to her friends before she glared at Naruto at a moment before they all left. Naruto sighed at this as Tama went back to his side. "I didn't expect you to actually turn against your mom's cabin," Annabeth said, revealing her presence near her and Percy. "Gah! What the hell?" Naruto yelled as he jumped a bit in surprise before he looked at Annabeth along with Percy. "Why didn't you help?" Percy asked as he looked at Annabeth. "Obviously you didn't need it," Annabeth said as she looked at the water and the destroyed toilet. "Is there a reason you were spying on us?" Naruto asked as he raised an eyebrow. "I was wondering, have you two been recruited to a team for Capture the Flag?" Annabeth asked as she looked at Percy and Naruto. "No, I just got here," Percy said as he shook his head. "And I haven't really picked yet, though considering what just happened I think I just burned bridges with my mom's cabin," Naruto said with a sigh. "Good, you can join my team then," Annabeth said as she left the restroom. What?" Percy asked as he looked after the girl, obviously surprised and annoyed with her. "Don't let it get to you. From what Luke told me that's just how she is, always thinking 6 steps ahead of everyone else, which is the standard for Athena's kids from what I heard," Naruto said as he patted Percy on the shoulder before they both left the restroom cabin. "Thanks for trying to help me back there," Percy said to Naruto as they both approached the Hermes cabin. "No problem, I don't tolerate bullies even if they are family," Naruto said with a nod at this as they both entered the cabin for the night. The next day, it was the next day and everyone was outside in Greek armor getting ready for Capture the Flag. Currently Naruto was getting his armor on which had some blue on it, seeing as he had joined that team along with Percy. "How's it fit?" Luke asked as he approached Naruto to check on him. "It fits fine, but I feel confined in this stuff," Naruto said with a look of annoyance as he finished strapping down his armor. "You will get used to it." "Tama ready to go?" Luke asked curiously. "Yay, I'm just glad he is allowed," Naruto said with a grin of relief. "Well, all weapons and tools are allowed as long as you don't maim or kill." "Hey," Luke was explaining before Tama shot at Luke with a punch before he blocked with his shield, which sent him back a bit. "I don't think Tama likes being called that," Naruto said with a sweat drop as the scarf shook in anger at this. "Noted, geez, that thing has a mean punch," Luke said as he looked at his shield, which was slightly dented. "Sorry," Naruto said with a frown at this while Tama went back to his side. "It's fine, just focus on the game, you know the plan, right?" Luke asked as he waved his hand dismissively. Yay, I watch Percy's back from afar for when Auntie and her friends go after him instead of protecting the flag," Naruto said with a nod. "Don't take them lightly, the Ares cabin is the most battle-hardened of all the cabins, so don't think they will show you mercy just because of who your mom is," Luke said with a firm tone. "Like I expected them to," Naruto said with a scoff at this as Chiron approached and started the game, which caused the first groups from each teams to head into the forest before the rest would head in. A little later Naruto was now in the forest, making his way through the forest, only he was jumping from branch to branch with the help of Tama, who was grabbing onto branches and pulling Naruto onto them before he jumped again. This is way more fun than resting in tree ever was, Naruto thought with a smile as he landed on another tree branch and started to look around a bit. He soon spotted Percy, who was running from Clarice, who had her spear out, and her friends who had their own weapons out, as they chased Percy towards the lake. As Percy started to fight Clarice and her friends, Naruto jumped down towards them. As he landed on the ground, Tama grabbed one of Clarice's friends by the back of his armor and with a swing threw him away from Percy, making him yell in surprise. "Gotta say, ganging up on a fellow half-blood isn't exactly a good look, auntie," Naruto said as Tama came back to his side, floating in the air ready to go as Clarice and her fellow Aries campers glared at Naruto. "Deal with that idiot," Clarice yelled at her friends as she charged at Percy with her spear. "Hurtful," Naruto said with a fake pout as Clarice's two friends charged at him with their swords and shields. One of them came at Naruto from the side and swung his shield at Naruto, but Tama quickly grabbed his shield and with a pull ripped it off his arm. "Hey! Give that back, you!" the Aries camper was yelling before Tama smacked him in the head with the shield with a clang, causing him to fall to the ground with a groan. Naruto smirked at this as he clashed blades with the second Aries camper, who easily disarmed him, causing him to drop his blade. "Can't even use a blade and needs his scarf to fight for him. Can you even fight yourself?" the Aries camper asked with a smirk as he pointed his blade at Naruto. "Oh god, are all you technical aunts and uncles this much of dicks?" Naruto said flatly. "Do you always make jokes when you are useless?" the Aries camper retorted as he swung his blade at Naruto, who blocked with his shield. Naruto scowled at this before with a yell he shoved forward and sent the Aries camper flying as he slammed his shield into his chest. "Joking in the face of danger is part of my charm," Naruto said with a grin at the fact that he was apparently stronger than he thought. He then turned to Percy and Clarice, who were still fighting, and as Clarice shoved her spear forward at Percy, he dodged to the side before he grabbed the spear and then slammed his shield into the side of it, breaking it. "No!" Clarice yelled out in a fury before she ran at Percy, ready to kill him. Before Tama grabbed her by the back of her head and slammed her into the dirt. "Stay down, auntie, don't make me hurt you," Naruto said with a firm tone as he glared at the daughter of Aries. Clarice glared at Naruto, but before she could respond, cheers were heard as Luke's team ran over with the other team's flag. "And that's game," Naruto said with a grin as Tama let Clarice go. "Damn it," Clarice yelled angrily as she got up. "Oh, relax, it was just a game, there will be other games," Naruto said as he looked at Clarice as she got up. "Not that, you idiot, my spear, my father gave me that spear and it's destroyed," Clarice yelled as she looked at the pieces of her spear with a look of anger and pain on her face. Naruto paused at this before he frowned. "Look, I'm sure we can," he was saying before he was cut off. "Shut up. We're not family, you idiot, so just leave me alone," Clarice yelled as she walked past Naruto, shoving him in the shoulder hard so he would get out of the way. Tama moved to grab after her, but Naruto grabbed him, stopping the scarf. "It's fine," Naruto said as he shook his head at this. Tama nodded at this before he went back to Naruto's side. "Sorry about breaking her spear," Percy said with a frown as he approached Naruto. "It's fine, in a battle things happen, it's her own fault for starting a fight instead of prioritizing protecting her team's flag," Naruto said as he looked at Percy. "Not bad, you too," Annabeth said as she appeared next to them after taking off a blue baseball cap. "Gah! Don't do that, damn it," Naruto yelled as he jumped in surprise at the sudden appearance of the daughter of Athena. You knew that Clarice and her friends would prioritize attacking me, why didn't you help me?" Percy asked Annabeth as Heb held his injured arm. "I knew Naruto had your back," Annabeth said with a shrug. "Plus obviously she was watching us while invisible just in case we needed help," Naruto said as he crossed his arms and looked at Annabeth, as this was a smart move as Clarice and her friends wouldn't expect help from someone invisible. Annabeth nodded at this before she looked at Percy, who was still holding his injured arm. "Here," she said as she held out her hand. Percy looked at the hand and after a few moments he took it. Annabeth then shoved Percy into the lake behind him, submerging him in the water. "Hey, what's your problem?" Percy yelled as he sat in the lake soaking wet. "Maybe she likes you and this is how she shows it, yow," Naruto was saying before Annabeth slammed the back of her shield into the back of his knee, and considering how hard these shield were, this obviously hurt like hell. "I had a hunch, you idiot, look at his injuries," Annabeth said as she put her shield away. Naruto looked at Percy and paused as he saw that his wounds were disappearing quickly now that he was in the water. "Oh geez, that's who his dad is?" he asked as he had been told by Luke about the big three and their so-called promise to not have any more kids. "What? Who is it?" Percy asked as he stood up looking at Naruto and Annabeth before a bright blue glowing trident appeared over his head, getting his and everyone's attention. "Your dad is calling," Annabeth said with a slight grin at the fact that her hunch was right. My dad is Poseidon, Percy said in surprise as he looked at the flapping trident symbol. Looks like it, Naruto said with a grin as he gave Percy a thumbs up even though he was a little jealous. Later, a little later after Percy had moved into the Poseidon cabin, Naruto was at battle practice with some of the other campers. As he geared up for practicing with Luke, he noticed some campers whispering among themselves and raised an eyebrow as he caught a few key words, those being Zeus, Poseidon, Bolt and War. Okay Naruto, let's do this, Luke said as he approached, getting Naruto's attention. Naruto nodded at this as he readied his shield and blade. So what's got everyone so jumpy? He asked Luke as they both took ready stances. Zeus' Master Bolt has been stolen and he's threatening to go to war with Poseidon if it's not returned within 10 days. Luke said as he took a swing at Naruto, who blocked with his shield. I thought gods couldn't steal each other's stuff, Naruto said as he had heard that was a major rule with the gods. They can't, but if they ask a half-blood to steal it for them, Luke said as he trailed off as he backed away from Naruto. Ah, I get it, Poseidon reveals he has a kid and now Zeus is becoming paranoid, right? Naruto asked as he slightly scowled. This caused several campers watching the spar to look nervously up at the sky as if expecting something to happen. What? It's not like I called him Thunderpants or something, Naruto asked with a grin as he tried to lighten the mood. You don't have any fear, do you? Luke asked with a chuckle. Not really, they may be gods but they seem to have their flaws just like us, even if they would like to pretend they don't, Naruto said as he shrugged. Really? One of the other campers asked curiously. I'm not one to rant, I just point out bullcrap when I see it, I don't care who they are, Naruto said as he looked at the camper. Luke chuckled at this, but before he could respond a commotion was heard from the cabins nearby. What's going on? He asked a camper who ran by. Percy's going to the Oracle, he's getting a quest, the camper said as she ran off with the others. Oh wow, that's rare, right? Naruto asked as Luke blinked in surprise at this. It is, let's go, Luke said as he followed after the other campers. Naruto dropped his shield and sword and followed after everyone, and soon he saw that everyone was standing in front of the Poseidon cabin where Chiron was standing alongside Percy. The Oracle has stated that Percy shall be allowed to choose 3 campers to go with him on this quest. Percy, if you please, Chiron said as he looked at the assembled campers before he looked at Percy. Everyone went silent at this, but were all obviously excited at the chance to be chosen to go on a quest. Percy looked around at everyone and stopped as his eyes met Annabeth's, and after a few moments of thought to himself. Annabeth, he said with a firm tone of voice, the first has been chosen. Annabeth Chase, will you accept? Chiron asked Annabeth as he and everyone else looked at the daughter of Athena. Annabeth nodded at this as she stepped forward. Good, if you will please make your next choice, Percy, Chiron said with a nod at Annabeth before he looked at Percy. Percy nodded at this before he looked at everyone and passed as he looked at Luke and Naruto, and after a few moments. Naruto, Percy said with a nod at the blonde teen. Naruto blinked in surprise at this before he smiled. The second to be chosen, Naruto Uzumaki, will you accept? Chiron asked Naruto. You bet, can't let a war happen over Thunderpants not getting his bolt back, right? Naruto asked with a smile as he stepped forward. As he said this, campers looked nervous as storm clouds started to gather in the sky as in warning. Really? That petty? Wow, Naruto asked as he took note of the clouds in the sky. Moron, Annabeth said with a sigh as she shook her head. Alright, sorry, Naruto said as he bowed his head as he stood next to Annabeth, which caused the clouds to slowly disappear. And your third choice, Mr. Jackson? Chiron asked Percy. My third choice is Grover, Percy said firmly without any hesitation. This got some groans of disappointment from the other campers, who all started to leave now that all the spots were picked. Where is Grover anyway? Naruto asked curiously as he hadn't seen the satyr lately. I do believe Mr. Underwood was assigned to clean up after the Pegasus by Mr. D. Now you should all start packing, you leave right away, Chiron said to them. Annabeth nodded at this before she made her way towards the Athena cabin. Naruto also nodded at this as he walked towards the Hermes cabin. But his path was blocked by Clarice, making him stop. Wanna make up, auntie? Naruto asked with a raised eyebrow. What are you doing? Clarice asked with a cold tone. I'm getting ready for my quest, Naruto was saying before he was cut off. You think you are ready for a quest? You can't even swing a blade right and you think you can handle a quest? Clarice asked with a scowl as she glared at Naruto. I handled you and your friends, or do you need a reminder, auntie? Naruto said with a cold tone as he glared back. Clarice just glared at Naruto for a few moments before she scoffed and laughed a bit. Don't think you going on this quest will make your dad pay attention to you. If he hasn't claimed you by now, he doesn't care, she said as she walked past Naruto. Naruto scoffed at this as he ignored Clarice and walked into the Hermes cabin unseen to him, though Tama had grabbed an overripe apple from a bowl and threw it at the retreating daughter of Ares, nailing her in the back of the head, making it splatter. Gah! Who threw that? Clarice yelled in a rage at the fact her hair was now covered in smashed apple. Later with Naruto, he was sitting on a tree branch of Talia's tree waiting for everyone else with a backpack on his back. Huh, this tree ain't so bad. Hope you don't mind me waiting here for my friends, Naruto said to the tree with a smile as he leaned back a bit to relax, and as he rested his eyes started to droop as he slightly fall asleep. As he fell asleep, he saw what looked like an image of a teen girl in jeans and black leather coat and with short black hair fighting a horde of monsters. Wow! Naruto said with wide eyes, a small blush on his face at this, as he had never seen anyone, let alone a girl, fight like this. Hey! Wake up, you idiot! A voice yelled loudly. Gah! I'm up! Naruto yelled as he woke up and stood up in a hurry, causing him to stumble and fall out of Talia's tree towards Percy, Annabeth and Grover down below. But before Naruto could hit the ground, Tama shot out and grabbed a branch on Talia's tree, breaking his fall and causing him to grab onto Tama and start to hang from the branch and look at his three companions. Hey guys, Naruto said with a sheepish chuckle at the two half-bloods and Satyr. Hey, Percy said while Grover waved at Naruto. Get out of that tree before I make you, Annabeth said as she gave Naruto a cold look. Technically I'm already out of the tree, oi, Naruto was saying with a smile before Annabeth took a swing at him with one of her daggers, which he avoided by dropping out of the tree thanks to Tama letting go of the tree. If I see you in that tree again, you're dead, Annabeth said with a cold tone as she glared at Naruto as she put her daggers away. Okay geez, Naruto said as he stood up and rubbed his back from his fall. Are you guys ready? Percy asked as he readied his backpack. As ready as I can be, Grover said with a nod at this. Yay, let's go find Thunderpants Bolt before he throws a tantrum, Naruto said with a smile as they all walked past Talia's tree. Do you have to tempt fate by insulting the gods, you idiot? Annabeth asked with an annoyed look. You know what, I'll stop when you give me a genuine smile, little sis, Naruto said with a grin at the daughter of Athena. Little sis? Annabeth stuttered out in surprise at this before she scowled in annoyance. Percy and Grover both sweat dropped at this as the three half-bloods and Satyr took the first steps on their quest. Hours later, the group was sitting in the back of a bus. So we're heading for New Jersey? Naruto asked curiously as he looked at the others. Well, that's where the entrance to the underworld is supposed to be, Annabeth said with a firm tone. Kinda obvious place to put the entrance to the underworld, if you ask me. From what I hear, New Jersey is a hole, Naruto said with a chuckle at this. So we head there and get the bolt back from Hades, Grover said, as he looked at Percy. And we're sure it was him who took it? Naruto asked Percy, as he raised an eyebrow slightly. Well, the Oracle said to head west and the entrance to the underworld is that way, so that's the best plan I can think of, Percy said, as he shrugged. Naruto quirked an eyebrow at this, before he sighed at this, as he couldn't fault this. Problem? Annabeth asked curiously, taking note of this. It just feels too easy to me. I mean, the bolt goes missing and we just assume Hades? I mean, if I was going to steal the bolt, I would frame someone everyone would assume would want to do it, Naruto said, as he looked out the window. A sound hypothesis, but unless you have proof of this, we should just stick to the plan, Annabeth said, as she shook her head. Naruto shrugged at this, as the bus pulled into a bus stop. Okay. I'm going to go get snacks. All of you stay here, Annabeth said to everyone, before she stood up. Wait, why do only you get to leave the bus? Percy asked, as he looked at Annabeth, slightly annoyed. I'm assuming because you're a target, being a child of the big three and the #1 suspect of who stole the bolt, Naruto said, as he looked at Annabeth. Look at you, you can think. Chip's okay with everyone? Annabeth said to Naruto, before she looked at Percy and Grover, before she left the bus. Don't forget something to drink and some chocolate too, Naruto yelled after her, getting a nod and rolled eyes at this. You always try to mouth off to everyone? Percy asked curiously, taking note of the blonde's response to Annabeth after her dig at him. Better than getting physical, Naruto said with a shrug. Well, ease up. I mean, she was pretty annoyed that you were sitting in Talia's tree, Grover said, as he tried to ease the tension a bit. Oh, that was her and Luke's friend they came here with, right? Naruto asked, as he had heard a little bit about what had happened, but didn't ask too many questions. She died giving Luke and Annabeth time to get to camp, right? Percy asked with a raised eyebrow, as Luke had told him the story. That's right, Grover said, as he nodded at this. And they named a tree after her? Naruto asked, raising an eyebrow at this. No, Zeus turned her into a tree, after she was wounded. She is now a barrier for the camp, keeping monsters out, Grover said, as he shook his head, before frowning a bit at the memory. Naruto's eyes widened at this, as he remembered the image of the girl he had seen fighting a bunch of monsters, while he was sleeping in Talia's tree, before he frowned and made a mental note to apologize to Annabeth when she came back, as he now saw why she was so annoyed with him. As he did this, Tama suddenly flicked his ear and pointed towards the front of the bus. Naruto looked and saw what looked like an older woman entering the bus, but as she looked at them for a moment, Naruto felt the hair on the back of his neck stand on end a bit, before the older woman sat down in the front of the bus. "Are you okay?" Percy asked, as he and Grover looked at Naruto. "We're not alone. Stay alert," Naruto said with a firm tone. Percy and Grover looked at each other at this, before Grover looked out the window. "Get down!" he yelled, before he grabbed Percy and shoved him down on the floor, as a figure smashed through the window into the bus. Said figure stood up, revealing itself as a demonic woman, who had wings on her back. "Ah crap on a crap sandwich," Naruto growled, as he jumped to his feet, as Tama shot out at the Fury and grabbed her by the back of her head and slammed her into the back of the bus, before Naruto slammed into the Fury, grabbing her wings and yanking on them a bit. "Naruto!" Percy yelled, surprised at seeing this. "Get going!" Naruto yelled, as he pulled on the Fury's wings, while Tama pulled on her head. "Get off me, outsider!" the Fury yelled in anger, as she tried to grab Naruto. Naruto raised an eyebrow at this, but before he could question this, a bronze dagger flew into the Fury, making her cry out as she turned to ash and Naruto dropped to the floor. "Not bad, Uzumaki," Annabeth said, as she ran over and grabbed the dropped dagger, as she jumped out the window after Percy and Grover. "Thanks," Naruto said with a grin and a nod, as he ran after the daughter of Athena and followed her, Percy and Grover into the forest nearby. Later, a little later, the group was now walking down a path in the forest, being led by Grover. "So this is a satyr trail?" Naruto asked Grover, as he had heard about how satyrs had knowledge of paths in the forest. "Yay. My uncle Ferdinand used it on his quest to find Pan," Grover said, as he smiled. "Do you mean Peter Pan, leader of the Lost Boys?" Naruto asked curiously. "God of nature, you moron. Didn't your mom teach you anything at all?" Annabeth said with a groan. "Not really. I mean, she told me stories about different gods, but she didn't stick to the Greek ones," Naruto was saying, before he was cut off, as Annabeth covered his mouth, silencing him. "Hush," Annabeth said, as she put her finger to her mouth, while Grover looked nervous at this. "Wait, the other pantheons actually exist, too?" Percy asked, surprised at this. "Yes, they do. But they are supposed to stay in their own territories and stay out of our territory, otherwise a fight could happen. Though I don't think there are many gods that could challenge the Olympian gods," Annabeth said, as she removed her hand from Naruto's mouth, while they continued to walk. "Huh, you know one of those hags called me outsider. You think that has anything to do with it?" Naruto said, as he recalled how the Fury referred to him as an outsider. "Impossible. From what I hear, your mother wouldn't do something that foolish. It would be like spitting in her father's face," Annabeth said, as she shook her head at this. "Well, it would explain why I can't use any of your weapons worth a damn," Naruto grumbled under his breath, as he crossed his arms. "As fascinating as this conversation is, I think we should find a phone and make a call back to camp," Percy said to the group. "Why?" Annabeth asked, as she raised an eyebrow at this. Hello? We just got attacked and are now on the run from monsters in the woods," Percy said, as he gestured to the forest. "Isn't that what a quest actually is?" Naruto asked, as he raised an eyebrow at this. "Well said. And besides, if we call them for help, it's like admitting we're in over our head," Annabeth said, as they continued to walk. "We are in over our head. We got attacked and we're on the run and we lost our supplies," Percy yelled in a panic. "What's your problem? What are you so afraid of?" Annabeth asked, as she gave Percy an annoyed look. "I don't have a problem. And why don't you ask your mom for some help, if you know everything?" Percy asked, as he gave her his own annoyed look. "Shut up, the both of ya," Naruto yelled, as he got in between the two demigods and separated them. "Who said you were in charge?" Percy asked Naruto, as he narrowed his eyes. "I'm not, but this tension crap isn't helping at all. And obviously, something is bothering you, so either share with the group or shut the hell up and keep walking," Naruto said, as he looked at Percy. Annabeth nodded at this, as she agreed with Naruto's words. "And you, stop being a smug know-it-all and try to be more sympathetic. Hell, he just lost his mom not even a few days ago and now he's on a quest for his dad, who he hasn't even met. So pull back a bit or Tama's gonna get a workout slapping the back of your head," Naruto said, as he turned to look at the daughter of Athena. Annabeth blinked in surprise at this, before she scowled at Naruto, obviously annoyed with him now. Grover frowned at this, but before he could respond to this, he started to smell the air. "Hey, do you guys smell that?" he asked, as he looked down the forest trail. "I don't smell anything," Percy said, as he looked at his best friend along with the others. Naruto approached Grover and sniffed the air a bit and paused. "Burgers? In the forest?" he asked, as he was surprised at the smell. "Wait, you can smell what he smells?" Annabeth asked curiously, as this was definitely not an ability she had seen from other demigods. "Well, yay. Why is that odd?" Naruto asked, as he raised an eyebrow at this. "Follow me," Grover said, as he took off down the trail. The other three quickly followed after the satyr and soon, they left the forest and were in front of what looked like a house, which had what looked like a garden with many statues in front of the house. As they approached the house, Naruto looked at the statues and took note of the fact that all the statues looked like they were scared. "Creepy choice for a theme," Naruto said, as they looked at the statues. "Hey, this one looks like my Uncle Ferdinand," Grover said, as he was looking at a statue of an older satyr. Hearing this, Annabeth's eyes widened. "We need to get out of here," she said firmly. "We may have a problem with that," Naruto said, as he looked behind them at another Fury, who had just landed a fair distance from them. "You're not welcome here, Fury," a female voice said, getting everyone's attention. "Quickly, close your eyes," Annabeth said, as she quickly closed her eyes, which Percy and Grover quickly copied. Naruto asked curiously, before Tama quickly wrapped around his eyes, blinding him. A woman wearing a wide-brimmed hat with a black veil hiding her face and a purple dress appeared. Electo quickly covered her view with her wings upon seeing the woman. "Medusa," Annabeth said with a tone of mistrust. "I don't usually get guests and some half-bloods, no less," Medusa said with a kind tone, as she looked at them and paused for a moment, as she looked at Naruto. "That statue doesn't just look like Uncle Ferdinand, it is Uncle Ferdinand," Grover said in worry. Naruto scowled lightly at this, as while he didn't remember everything about Greek mythology, Medusa was definitely one he remembered. "I'm making lunch. You're free to join me, that one won't follow," Medusa said, as she gestured to Electo, before she walked towards her house. "What's the plan?" Percy asked Annabeth, as he kept his eyes closed. "I say we take our chances with Electo," Annabeth said with a firm tone. "And miss having a free meal?" Naruto asked curiously, as he lifted Tama up a bit, so that he could see. "You can't be serious," Annabeth said, as she looked at Naruto. "I'm not saying we just trust her, and if she tries anything, we outnumber her. So let's just go in and see what she wants," Naruto said, as Tama unwrapped itself from around his face. "Is that something your mom taught you?" Percy asked curiously, as they walked towards Medusa's house. "Kinda. She told me to be open to people's kindness if offered it, but don't be a complete moron," Naruto said as he shrugged. Percy balked at this, as he didn't expect someone to say that to their own child, even if they were a half-blood themselves. "Yay, from what I heard, his mom was one to be pretty blunt," Grover said with a nod, as they approached the front door, which was open. As they entered the house, they saw that they were entering what looked like a dining room, and on the dining table was a spread of burgers and fries, along with lettuce, cheese and tomatoes, with a few different drinks spread about. "Talk about making an impression," Naruto said, as Grover quickly sat down and started to eat. "Grover, we don't know if this is safe to eat," Annabeth said, as she looked at the satyr with an annoyed look. "If I was going to kill you, I would have just turned you into statues or left you to Electo," Medusa said, as she entered the room and sat down at the end of the table. Annabeth, Percy and Naruto both stood at the ready at seeing her, as while they knew they were safe as long as she had her hat on, they knew it would only take a moment for her to remove her hat, if she wanted to attack them. "You know, you demigods and I have more in common than you think," Medusa said, as she looked at the teens with a tilt of her head. "How is that?" Percy asked, as he raised an eyebrow at this. "I used to worship the gods, same as you. More specifically, your mother," Medusa said, as she looked at Annabeth. "I think I recall hearing about you. Didn't Annabeth's mom curse you?" Naruto asked, as he knew if this was the case, then this might be a trap to get revenge on Annabeth's mom. "Indeed, but I hold no ill will towards you. After all, you're not your mother," Medusa said with a kind tone as she looked at Annabeth. Annabeth said nothing to this, as she knew this was most likely just an attempt to get at her mentally. "Anyway, I was a priestess and I was very devoted to your mother, but was very rarely acknowledged by her. And then one day, your father came to me and we fell in love," Medusa said, as she turned to look at Percy. "Well, that's kinda awkward," Naruto grumbled under his breath, as he kept his eyes on Medusa. But your mother, seeing this as an insult, decided to punish me by, well, Medusa said, as she gestured to her hat for emphasis. That's a lie. My mother is always just, Annabeth said, as she glared at the Gorgon. Medusa didn't say anything to this, as she just looked at Annabeth. This caused the hair on the back of Naruto's neck to stand up and sweat to start to form on his forehead. Something tells me she didn't like that, he thought, as while he couldn't see all of her face, he was good at reading people and something was telling him to get the hell out of here. I do believe more food is almost ready. Would some of you be willing to help me? Medusa asked, as she stood up and walked towards the kitchen, before she looked at Percy. Good idea. Let's go Percy, Naruto said, as he walked forward and pushed Percy forward a bit. Percy looked at Naruto with a raised eyebrow at this, while Naruto simply gave him a nod, as they both followed Medusa. Annabeth scowled at this, before she moved to talk to Grover, who was still eating. In the kitchen, Percy and Naruto walked into the kitchen and stopped and watched Medusa, as she prepared some food at a counter, with her back to them. She's going to betray you, you know, she said with a casual tone. This caused Percy to freeze, while Naruto's eyes narrowed at this. What makes you say that? Naruto asked, as he knew that Medusa was referring to Annabeth. It's in her nature, all children of Athena are only out for themselves, Medusa said calmly, as she continued to prepare the food. This caused Percy to frown, as he was lost in his thoughts for a few moments, before he shook his head, clearing it. Yay, and I'm sure that's you not being totally biased, Naruto said with a scowl at the Gorgon woman. You have your mother's insolent tongue, boy, Medusa said, as she stopped preparing the food for a moment, before she continued her work. Thanks, I think I'll take that as a compliment, Naruto said with a smirk. Tell me, son of Poseidon, do you think your friends will help you save your mother by getting Zeus Master Bolt? Medusa asked with a slight smile. Percy froze at this, while Naruto looked at Percy, surprised at this. You know, I could remove them for you, if you wish, Medusa said as she turned to look at Percy and Naruto, but saw that they were gone. How disappointing, she said, as she took off her hat, revealing her hair, which was made of snakes, before she went to follow them. With the group, we need to go, now, Percy yelled, as he and Naruto ran into the dining room, where Annabeth and Grover were still waiting for them. Yeah, she's not playing around, Naruto said, as Tama unwrapped from his neck, ready to go just in case. Where are we going to go? Electo is still out there, Grover said, as they all moved towards the door, before stopping as they saw said minion of Hades was still outside. What about out the back door? Percy asked. She will just follow us, Naruto said, as he shook his head at this. Quick, follow me, Annabeth said, as she led the way to a door, which led downstairs into the basement. As they entered the basement, they saw that it was full of crates and statues, obviously Medusa's victims, who she shipped around the world to make money. Great. So not only does she petrify her victims, but she sells them too, Naruto said with a scowl, as he clenched his hands at this. As they looked around, they heard the door upstairs open and what sounded like footsteps, signaling that Medusa was following them. Split up and remember, to keep your eyes closed, Annabeth whispered, as they all split up and started to sneak around the boxes and statues, with Percy and Annabeth taking out their weapons. You know, you two are so much like your parents. If you refuse to stand up to them, then I guess I'll have to do it. I'll start by sending them your statues. Such a shame, you should have accepted my offer, Medusa's voice said, as she looked around for the demigods. Percy scowled at this, as he readied his sword and closed his eyes tightly, as he heard Medusa was getting closer to him. And don't think you are immune, young Uzumaki. While your mother is known for being rash, I must say, going to China and returning pregnant from one of those pantheon gods. What an insult to her father, Medusa said with a smile, as she knew Naruto was curious about any information about his father. Naruto's eyes widened in surprise at this, as he hid behind a crate Medusa walked past, before he quickly composed himself and closed his eyes. Tama, I'm counting on you, he whispered to his scarf. Said scarf patted Naruto on the shoulder, showing he was ready to help. Naruto nodded at this, before he ran out from his hiding spot and towards Medusa. As he did this, Tama shot at the Gorgon woman and wrapped himself around her entire head, effectively protecting them all from her curse. Percy, now, Naruto yelled, as he ran at Medusa and slugged her in the back, while Tama held her face, as she tried in vain to claw at the scarf. Percy ran out from his hiding spot and with a shout, swung his blade at Medusa, slicing her head off, sending it flying along with Naruto's scarf, who was now holding the head wrapped up in itself, which Tama obviously didn't like as it was shuddering in disgust, but still staying wrapped around the head, so they would stay safe. Someone get a blanket or something. I don't want to find out if Tama can puke, Naruto yelled out to everyone, as his face slightly turned green. Here, Nice job by the way, Annabeth said, as she approached them and put her baseball cap on the head, turning it invisible, before Tama quickly shot back to Naruto's side and shook itself, sending some blood flying. Come on, man, Grover said with a groan, as he and Percy held up their hands to cover themselves, so no flying blood got on them. What was she talking about? Annabeth asked, as she looked at Percy along with Grover. Percy said nothing to this, while Naruto frowned slightly. She offered to help me find my mother, by getting you guys out of the way, Percy said, as he put away his sword. And before you start, him chopping off her head was pretty much him telling her no, Naruto said to Annabeth, who looked like she was ready to say something to Percy. Why would she make such an offer to you? Grover asked curiously. The oracle told me that, Percy was saying, before being cut off. Oh god, they actually have that? Naruto said with a groan hearing this. What's wrong with oracles? Annabeth asked, as she hadn't seen this reaction from anyone before. Well, from what I have seen of the stories about them, they're always really vague and what they tell you doesn't make any sense until after what they predict has already happened, and if you focus too much on certain parts of what they tell you, you end up screwing yourself over, Naruto said as he explained what he knew. I'm guessing that's a direct quote from your mom, Annabeth said with a sigh at Naruto's language. Well, is she wrong? Naruto asked, as he raised an eyebrow at this. Technically, no, not really, Grover said, as he couldn't fault the logic in what Naruto said. I still want to know what the oracle told you, Annabeth said, as she looked at Percy. I was told that I would be betrayed by someone who calls me friend and I would lose what is most important in the end, Percy said as he frowned, while getting silence from the others. Well, that explains why you're so jumpy and nervous. Wait, then why did you choose us to come with you? Naruto said, as he winced. I chose Grover, because I knew I could trust him, and I chose you and Annabeth, because, well, I didn't think me and Annabeth could ever be friends, so I wanted someone I knew what to expect, Percy said, as he hesitated a bit before answering. Annabeth frowned at this, but said nothing. Yay, you using him as bait and not helping when you could, doesn't exactly paint a picture of loyalty, Naruto said as he sighed. And why did you pick him? Annabeth asked with an annoyed look, as she looked at Naruto, annoyed at the truth in his words. Well, he's had my back ever since I got here, so I figured it was best to have him and Grover watching my back, Percy said as he shrugged. Naruto smiled at this, as he gave Percy a thumbs up. Look, if today has taught me anything, we're going to get through this by trusting each other. So let's just try to get along, Percy said, as he looked at Annabeth, before he held out his hand for her to shake. Annabeth looked at the offered hand for a few moments, before she nodded and then shook it. So what's the plan for Medusa's head? Grover asked, as he looked at where said head had turned invisible. Percy looked at where the head was, before he picked it up. I have an idea, he said, as he headed for the stairs. Percy walked out of the house, while Naruto, Annabeth and Grover watched him, as he walked towards Electo. Once he was far enough from the house, Electo gave a screech, as she flew slightly into the air and dove towards Percy, her hands out to grab him. But before she got close enough, Percy removed Annabeth's invisibility cap, causing Medusa's head to be shown, which caused Electo to turn to stone, where she fell and broke to pieces on the ground. Well, that was anticlimactic. Are we gonna use that on everyone we come across who picks a fight with us? Naruto asked, as Percy put Annabeth's hat back on the head. No, I'm gonna ship it to Olympus, Percy said, as he went back inside the house. This got surprised looks from Grover and Annabeth. Huh. And I thought my pranks were vindictive, Naruto said with a laugh, as he ran after Percy to help him pack up the head. A little later, after shipping off the head, the group were getting ready to leave the house. Hey guys, why don't we take some of this with us? Naruto asked the others, as he gestured at the food and drinks left on the table. Why? Annabeth asked, as she raised an eyebrow at this. You mean, besides the fact that we don't have any food? Plus, it seems a shame to just leave it. And, it would be a waste, Naruto said matter-of-factly. How do we even carry it anyway? And even if we could, the hot stuff would just go cold after a while, Annabeth said, as they looked at the table of food. We have enough room in our bags to pack up a few meals worth, so let's at least do that, Naruto said, as he approached the table. Well, it makes sense to take enough for a few days, Percy said, as he and Grover nodded at this. Annabeth shrugged at this, as they did have a point. After they all packed up a few days' worth of food into their backpacks, the group headed out and walked into the forest. So, any thoughts on what Medusa said about his dad? Percy asked Annabeth, as he pointed at Naruto, who was walking ahead of them with Grover, who was leading the way. Not really. The Chinese pantheon isn't exactly something I'm an expert on, Annabeth said. But you must have a few theories, Percy said. A few. but I'm not one to make guesses until I have more information, Annabeth said. Hey, maybe it's Buddha. I mean, have you seen him when he's eating ramen? Percy asked with a grin. Annabeth paused at this, before she laughed at this, getting a smile from Percy. Hey, you can laugh. What's so funny? Naruto asked, as he turned to look at his friends along with Grover. Just making a possible list for who your dad may be, Percy said. Oh. Well, I'm not that worried. I'm sure my dad will claim me soon. I mean, from what little mom said, he said he was one to show up eventually. Oh, and he apparently has an ego as big as Mount Wutai, Naruto said with a grin. This got smiles from the others, as the group continued to walk. Unnoticed to them, was what looked like a group of clouds that seemed to be following them, almost as if it was watching them. It had been a bit and the group was now on a train heading west, continuing their quest. They were all in their shared cabin, eating some dinner, as the train continued on its way. Well, at least now we are on our way again, Naruto said with a sigh, as they all finished their food. Yay, after that encounter with Medusa, we could all use some time to relax a bit, Grover said with a nod, as he finished his own food. We shouldn't get overconfident, that's how you end up dead, Annabeth said calmly, as she looked at the door to their cabin, just in case. How very wise you are, young one, Naruto said in an imitation of Yoda's voice. This got a chuckle from Percy, but looks of confusion from Grover and Annabeth. I don't get it, Grover said, as he raised an eyebrow at this. Me neither, Annabeth said, as she looked at Naruto in confusion. Wait, you don't know Star Wars? Naruto asked with wide eyes. I didn't exactly have a normal childhood growing up, Annabeth said, as she crossed her arms and looked to the side with a frown. You want to talk about it? Percy asked curiously, as he could tell Annabeth was bothered by this. Yay. I mean, talking can help us understand each other, which can help if we're gonna work together, Naruto said, as he nodded at this. Another piece of advice from your mom? Grover asked curiously, getting a nod from the blonde. Annabeth sighed at this, before she nodded. I ran away from home when I was 7 and after being alone for a bit, I met up with Luke and Talia and after journeying with them a bit, we arrived at camp and well, Annabeth said, as she frowned as she thought about what happened to her friend. This caused Grover to frown too, while Percy and Naruto looked at each other. You ran away from home? What about your family? Percy asked curiously. My dad wasn't that bad, actually. But then he remarried and the woman he married just saw me as a problem, so I just decided to leave, Annabeth said with a frown. Have you kept in contact with your father? Naruto asked. Annabeth shook her head at this. Naruto frowned at this and clenched his fists a bit, but said nothing. What? What is it? Grover asked, as he saw this and could tell something was bothering him. It's nothing, Naruto said, as he shook his head. If you have something to say, then say it, Annabeth said with a firm tone. Okay, fine. Look, while I am not defending your dad, I don't think you just running away was the right call. I mean, your dad cared about you, right? Naruto asked, as he looked at Annabeth. Yeah, he did, Annabeth said as she nodded at this, as she thought about her past. Then he was probably really upset and is probably worried about you. I mean, all parents who are worth a damn would, Naruto said with a firm but kind tone. Annabeth said nothing to this, but she clenched her fists at this. I'm not saying you should do anything, but if we do survive this, I think you should at least call him and try to work this out. I mean, you only get one dad and you're lucky if they actually care about you, Naruto said, as he decided to pull back a bit. Hey, it's getting late. So let's get some rest, Grover said, as he could tell things were getting tense. Yay, good idea, Percy said, as he nodded in agreement. I call top bunk, Naruto said, as he quickly climbed to one of the top bunks on one side of the cabin. Man, he's fast, Grover said, as he took the bottom bunk under Naruto. Percy chuckled at this, as he took the bottom bunk on his side, while Annabeth took the top bunk and as he turned off the light for the night, Annabeth laid awake for a bit and thought about what Naruto had said, before she too went to sleep. The next morning, it was the next morning and everyone was in the dining car eating some breakfast, seeing as they had eaten what food that they had taken from Medusa's. As they ate, Percy was looking out the window and saw what looked like some centaurs running in a field nearby. Not a lot of them, huh? Naruto asked, as he took a look and noticed it was a small group. That's because of humans, Grover said with a sigh. Oh, sorry, Percy said, as he didn't know what to say to this. It's fine. This is one of the reasons as satyrs are looking for Pan, Grover said. Are you hoping to find him yourself? Naruto asked, as he smiled at this, as he could tell Grover was really passionate about this. He can't go looking for Pan, unless he gets his searcher's license, Annabeth said, while Grover frowned a bit. Okay, so how does he get one? Percy asked curiously. I was supposed to get it, if I was successful in getting you to camp safely, Grover said, which caused Percy to frown, as it reminded him of his mother. Ah. So because of the Minotaur and his mom, they need to decide if you actually did a good enough job to earn your license, Naruto said with a nod of understanding. Yay, so here's hoping that after this quest, I can prove myself to the council, Grover said, as he nodded at Naruto to confirm what he said. As they were finishing eating, what looked like a man in a uniform and with a badge on his shirt approached them. Are you kids in the cabin back at car 3? The man asked with a no-nonsense tone of voice. Yay, that's us. Why? Percy asked, as he and the others looked at the man. The man nodded at this, as he talked into his radio, before he gestured for them to follow him. And a few moments later, they were in front of their cabin, and when they looked inside, they saw that it was pretty much destroyed, as if something with claws had attacked, destroying the window, the beds and couches. This wasn't us, Annabeth said firmly, as she knew what the officer who had escorted them here was thinking. Oh, then who was it? The man asked, as he looked at them, obviously not believing them. Well, obviously someone with an animal did this, Naruto said, as he looked at the ransacked cabin. And it can't have been any of us, as we never got on with an animal, Percy said, as he shook his head. Yay. Well, we have a witness who said she heard you kids in there, before we found this place like this, the officer said with a firm tone. Yay, and look, unless you have any real proof, we are done here, so why don't you go try to actually find who did this? Annabeth said with a cold tone, as she looked at the man, who glared back at her. Oh, this will go well, Naruto said with a groan, as he sighed. Moments later, the group was now back in the dining car sitting down, while several officers were at the end of the car, talking and making sure that they stayed put. Hey, I want my one phone call, you rent-a-cop, Naruto yelled back at the officers, getting looks of annoyance from them. Not helping, Grover said, as he shook his head at this. And who said I was trying to help? Naruto said with a grin at this. Would you stop being a moron? Annabeth whispered to him, as she looked around the cabin. Who do you think trashed our cabin? Percy whispered to them. Who do you think? Probably some monster, looking for the bolt, thinking that we have it, like the morons there, Naruto said with a scoff at this. Not only that, but did you notice that the window was destroyed from the inside? That means that the monster in question is setting us up, so they can get us alone? Annabeth said, as she looked at the officers down the cabin with suspicion. Naruto, Percy and Grover both looked at the officers at this, as they tried to look for any giveaways that they could be monsters. Hello there, dearies, a woman's voice said, as she sat down at the table on the other side of the aisle, while putting a pet carrier on the seat across from her, which had growls coming from it. The woman wore a white shirt, a white jacket, white pants and white high-heeled shoes. Your pet sounds like it has an attitude problem, Naruto said, as the pet carrier started to shake. Oh yes, my baby is quite unhappy, the woman said, as she patted the pet carrier. Why is that? Percy asked curiously, as he raised an eyebrow. Oh, he's just new to hunting. He's never hunted half-bloods before, the woman said with a smile, as she patted the pet carrier, to try and calm whatever was inside down. Let me guess, Echidna the mother of all monsters? Naruto asked with a scowl, as he recalled some of what he had been told. Oh, you know me? I'm honored that your mother has mentioned me to you. Hopefully something flattering, Echidna said with a kind tone. She said that you raise monsters to sick on people just for fun, and that you should be put down like your pets, though that's not her exact words, Naruto said with a cold tone, as Tama moved slightly, as if warning the mother of all monsters. You know, in a way, you half-bloods are no different from my children. You hunt them just for glory and bragging rights. Your mother alone, oh I have lost count on how many she has cut down in their prime, Echidna said, her kind tone turning cold, as she glared lightly at Naruto. I'm more than willing to start my own list, if you're stupid enough to open that, Naruto said with a glare of his own as he gestured at the pet carrier, while Tama moved and hovered next to his head, ready to go. Echidna's eyes narrowed at this, before she smiled and started to unzip the pet carrier. But before it even got halfway open, Tama grabbed her arm and slammed it against the wall. Hey! One of the officers yelled at this, as they started to make their way towards them. Move! Annabeth yelled, as she jumped to her feet and ran down the car with Percy, Grover and Naruto behind her, with Tama holding Echidna's hand in place, before they all left the car and the scarf followed after them. Echidna looked at her wrist, which was badly bruised, as if it was slightly crushed by someone really strong, causing her to scowl in annoyance. This caused the pet carrier next to her to shake violently, while growls were heard coming out of it. Not to worry, my pet. You will have your chance to hunt, Echidna said, as she petted the carrier with her good hand, before she grabbed the zipper. With Naruto, the group ran into the last car, and as they entered it, Naruto closed the door behind them and locked the door, just as the officers approached the door. Sorry, no admittance, Naruto yelled, as he closed the blinds on the door. What are we gonna do? Percy asked Annabeth, as they looked around for a way out. As they did this, the train suddenly started to shake and the train stopped. That can't be good, Naruto said with a scowl, as a loud roar was then heard. I think this is our stop, Grover said, as he ran to the back door of the car and went to open it, but it wouldn't open. Of course it's locked, Annabeth said with an annoyed tone of voice. Move over, Naruto said, as he approached while Tama moved, as he and Naruto reared their fists back, before they both slammed their fists into the door, causing the door to go flying off the hinges. Okay. How much of that was Tama? Percy asked Naruto, as his and Grover's eyes widened slightly at this show of strength. Move it, Annabeth yelled, as she ran out the door while more roars were heard, these ones sounding closer than the last. The boys quickly ran after the daughter of Athena and ran into the train station, making sure to hide behind trains, as they made their way into the city they had stopped at. A little later, the group was now walking in what looked like a neighborhood that had what looked like Chinese architecture and shops. As they entered the neighborhood, Percy looked up at a street sign which said Olive Boulevard. You think we can hide here? Percy asked, as they looked around at the different shops. I don't think that's a good idea. Whatever Echidna had with her will be hunting us, and we don't want the people here getting hurt, just because we decided to stay here, Grover said, as he shook his head at this. Well, where do you suppose we go then? Percy asked Annabeth. Annabeth said nothing to this, before she saw what looked like a map stand nearby, which she quickly ran over to. Pity there's no temple we can hide in, Naruto said, as he noticed a small Buddhist shrine next to what looked like a shop nearby, which he approached and put some fresh incense into, seeing as the one it already had was almost out. You know, most kids these days don't care about showing respect for shrines, an older short Chinese man said, as he came out of the shop and looked at Naruto, as he put his hands together in a prayer. Oh. Well, my mom said I should take the time to show respect to these if I can, something about it giving me protection, Naruto said, as he chuckled sheepishly. The old man looked at Naruto for a few moments, before he chuckled. Indeed. Well, if you are seeking protection, here take this, he said, as he took out what looked like a small golden needle. A gold needle? Naruto asked curiously, as he looked at the needle. It's more than that, my boy, trust me, you keep this on your person and it will help you when you need it, the old man said with a smile, as he placed it in Naruto's hand. Naruto looked at the gold needle for a moment, before he smiled a little, as he couldn't see the harm in having a good luck charm. Hey Naruto! Percy yelled out, getting his attention. Let's go. Annabeth found us a good place to hide, Grover yelled out to Naruto from the map stand where Percy and Annabeth were waiting. Right. Thanks for the good luck charm, old man. I'll be sure to keep it safe, Naruto said, as he put the gold needle behind his ear, before he ran off towards his friends, before Annabeth called a taxi. The old man chuckled at this, as he went back into his shop. As the old man walked into the shop, his body was covered in what looked like a black mist. When the mist faded, the old man was replaced by what looked like a short man with what looked like a boar's head, who was carrying what looked like a rake. He was also wearing what looked like a blue coat and beige pants. Hey, your brat has a good heart, old friend. Hopefully your gift I passed to him will be enough to help him, when the time comes, the pigman said with a chuckle. With Naruto, after a bit of driving, the taxi dropped the group off, before driving off once they got out. Naruto, Percy and Grover looked up and saw a large archway. Welcome to the Gateway Arch Team, pride of St. Louis and one of my mother's temples, Annabeth said with a grin, as they entered the building to look around. Oh yay. I forgot that Athena had a thing for architecture, Naruto said, as he looked up at the giant arch. And someday, I'll build an architecture just as grand, Annabeth said with a smile. Well, look at you, actually smiling and acting your age, Naruto said with a grin at this. Watch it, Whiskers, Annabeth said with a slightly annoyed tone, as they walked past a giant fountain and towards the entrance of the arch. So this place will be safe for us? Percy asked Annabeth, as they looked around at the displays, which were full of old hunting equipment and stuffed animals. I don't like this place, Grover said, as he frowned upon seeing this. Hey, my mother can't control what they keep here, Annabeth whispered to Grover, who was pulling away from them to go be alone. He doesn't like animals being mistreated, Percy said to Naruto, who gave him a look of confusion while they went after him heading outside. Oh. Well, we have that in common, Naruto said, as he nodded in understanding. Oh? Grover asked, as he stopped and looked at Naruto curiously. Oh, sure. For some reason, I always liked nature and animals. What, you thought I just liked trees? 'Cause it was in this year? Naruto asked curiously, as he smiled at Grover a bit, to put him at ease. Grover smiled back at this, glad to see that Naruto liked nature like him. Percy and Annabeth both smiled at this, but after a few moments, Annabeth grabbed her head as if in pain. Is something wrong? Percy asked, seeing this and hoping that his friend was okay. Guys? Naruto said, as he pointed across the way where across the street stood Echidna, who was calmly walking towards them with a smirk, as if she knew something they didn't. Run, Annabeth said, as she led them towards the entrance into the actual arch. After they ran inside, they quickly ran into the elevator and hit the top floor button, which closed the elevator doors, just as they saw Echidna following after them, with what looked like a large shadow behind her. What the hell, Annabeth? Naruto asked, as he looked at the daughter of Athena. Yeah, we thought that she wouldn't be able to enter your mother's temple, Percy said, wondering what happened. Annabeth said nothing to this, as she frowned while the elevator moved up. She talked to you mentally. What did Echidna say? Grover asked, now knowing what had caused her to grab her head in pain. My mother isn't happy about the fact that I sent Medusa's head to Olympus, so she's not going to protect us, Annabeth said with a frown. But you didn't send it, we did, Naruto said, as she pointed at himself and Percy. And I let you do it. I disgraced my mother and now, she's abandoning me, Annabeth said, as she frowned and started to slightly panic. Percy and Grover both frowned at this, while Naruto scowled at this and clenched his fists at this. Okay. We need to make a plan for Echidna and whatever she has with her, Naruto said to everyone, as he looked at the elevator floor number, which was slowly reaching the top. Should we try and evacuate the people, so they don't get hurt? Percy asked, as he knew even if they couldn't see what they were fighting thanks to the mist, they could still get hurt. As he said this, the elevator doors opened and they all got out of the elevator, seeing that there were tourists looking out of the windows. After looking around a bit, Grover spotted a fire alarm and quickly ran over to it and pulled it, setting off an alarm. Great move, Naruto said with a nod, as the tourists quickly started to leave, leaving them alone. So, what's the plan? Percy asked as he took out his pen, which soon turned into his sword. We either fight or we run, Naruto said, as Tama floated next to him, ready to go. Oh please run, it makes the hunt much more fun, Echidna's voice said from down the hall. The group of teens looked down the hallway and saw Echidna slowly approaching them, and standing next to her was a monster with the head of a lion, the body of a goat and a snake for a tail. A chimera, Annabeth said, as she took out her daggers and held them at the ready. You two get out of here, Percy said, as he looked back at Annabeth and Grover. Yay, there isn't enough room for all of us to fight this monster and the chimera? Naruto said, as he glared at Echidna. Echidna's eyes narrowed at this, while the chimera growled at Naruto, obviously not amused with his insult at her. Come on, Mr. Kitty, Naruto said, as Tama made a come here motion. The chimera roared as he pounced at Naruto, who dodged to the side, causing the chimera to slash the wall, making a massive hole. Get going! Naruto yelled at Annabeth and Grover, as Tama slugged the chimera's leg. The chimera growled at this, before it took a deep breath and breathed fire at them. Percy quickly tackled Naruto out of the way, as the floor he had been standing on was melted away, making another hole. Someone needs to lay off the spicy foods, thanks, Naruto grumbled out, before he looked at Percy. No problem, Percy said, as they both stood up. All you have done is delay the inevitable, while trapping yourself, Echidna said, as the chimera approached Naruto and Percy, who couldn't escape, thanks to the hole that was now behind them. You think we can jump it? Naruto asked, as he looked over his shoulder at the other side of the hole, where Annabeth was being dragged away by Grover into the elevator, which closed behind them. Before Percy could answer, he raised his sword, as the chimera's snake head tail took a bite at him, making him fall back from the force, before he yelled, as he fell back out of the hole. Percy! Naruto yelled, as Tama shot at Percy and grabbed him by his hand. As Percy hung over the city below, he saw that Echidna and the chimera were approaching Naruto from behind. Naruto, behind you, he yelled as he pointed. I know, damn it, Naruto yelled, as he tried to help Tama pull up Percy, but it was taking too long. Seeing this, Percy made a split decision as he grabbed Tama and yanked on the scarf's claw, making the scarf let go and drop him. Percy! Naruto yelled out, as his friend fell. Huh, I didn't expect a demigod to show such loyalty to throw his life away, just so his friend could live a little longer. Echidna said with a mocking chuckle after seeing this, while the Chimera approached Naruto, his mouth glowing red, ready to breathe fire again. Naruto clenched his fists at this and growled a bit, before with a shout, he turned around and slugged the Chimera in the face with all his strength. Which sent the Chimera flying back into Echidna, sending them both down the hall and slamming into the wall, which dented a bit from the force. Echidna groaned at this as she shook her head, and after inspecting herself she saw that her arms were broken from the force of the Chimera crashing into her, before she looked at the Chimera and saw that his neck was broken, before she glared at Naruto, who was approaching her. "You monster! He wasn't even fully grown!" Echidna yelled in a fury, as her face started to become more demonic. Naruto said nothing to this as he approached Echidna, his eyes narrowed, while the Chimera started to turn to dust, which instead of fading flew into Naruto, unnoticed by the teen. "Hey, are you going to kill me, little hero? Make your dear mother proud?" Echidna taunted, as she saw the hate in Naruto's eyes and recognized that look from her encounters with said daughter of Ares. "No, you would just come back, right? No, I'm going to let you go. Knowing you're not worth the effort," Naruto said with a scoff at the attempt to bait him to kill her. He then walked away from her and towards the stairs nearby. "Don't you walk away from me. You don't get to kill my child and then say I'm not worth the effort." Echidna yelled after Naruto, as she struggled to stand up, but winced as her legs were injured. "Watch me," Naruto said, as he left through the doors. Echidna growled at this, before she yelled out in a fury, her yell sounding like a monster and echoing for miles. Later outside, there was a big crowd of people outside, as police and firefighters arrived at the gateway arch, but thankfully, Naruto had been able to sneak his way away from the crowd and soon he spotted Grover and Annabeth near the pier nearby. "Where's Percy?" Grover asked, as he saw that the son of Poseidon wasn't with Naruto. Naruto scowled at this, while he clenched his fist saws he looked back at the arch. "He let himself fall, so that I could fight back, instead of holding him with Tama when he fell," he said, as he tried not to let his anger at what happened get to him. "So you didn't notice the water spout that grabbed him when he fell?" Annabeth asked, as she raised an eyebrow at Naruto. "Huh?" Naruto asked, blinking in surprise at this. "Look, there he is," Grover yelled, as he pointed at the water, where Percy had just broken the surface and was making his way towards them. "Hey guys," Percy said in greeting, as he approached the dock and reached his hand out for help. Naruto chuckled at this, as he grabbed Percy's hand and pulled him out of the water. "Come on, let's get out of here," Annabeth said, as she led them away from the area. "Did you deal with Echidna?" Percy asked Naruto, as they ran. "Yay, I sent her Chimera flying with one punch and it crashed into her, hurting her," Naruto said with a nod. "Wait, you actually slugged the Chimera?" Grover asked curiously, as while he knew Tama was strong, he didn't think Naruto had that kind of strength. "Yay, I even broke its neck," Naruto said with a grin, as he was glad he actually had strength, even without Tama. Percy and Annabeth both looked at each other at this, but said nothing, as they all continued to run. Later, it was now later in the day and the group had made it to a diner, which was a bit away from the city. "You think we can get something to eat?" Naruto asked the group. "Yeah, 'cause I'm starving," Percy said. "We don't have enough money for all of us," Annabeth said, as she frowned at the group, as she had been keeping track of their finances and they were low on human world money. "Well, I'm sure that we can get 2 meals and split it between the 4 of us," Percy said, as they entered the diner. "Well, it's better than nothing," Grover said, as they approached a table and grabbed a menu. "What are you kids having?" a waitress asked, as she approached them, taking out a pad and ran as she did. "Set them up with whatever they want, it's on me," a man said, as he approached their table and sat down across from them. The man was dressed as a biker, as he took off some sunglasses and put them in his jacket pocket. Naruto and Percy raised an eyebrow at this, while Annabeth and Grover both gained nervous looks on their faces seeing the man. Thanks," Naruto said, as he looked at the man curiously. "No problem. It's the least I can do for one of my daughter's kids, especially one of the few who actually has made me proud like Kushina has," the man said with a grin at Naruto. This got a look of surprise from Naruto and Percy. "You're Ares?" Percy asked, surprised that the god of war was here buying them food. "Yep, that's me. And you're the one who broke Clarissa's spear, nephew," Ares said, as he looked at Percy, making the young demigods nervous. "Hey, she started it," Naruto said, as he narrowed his eyes at this. "Oh, I agree it's her own fault for being sloppy," Ares said with a scoff at this. "Why are you here, Grandpa?" Naruto asked curiously, deciding to change the subject. "What, you think you're the only ones looking for the bolt? Zeus has all of us looking for it," Ares said. "And you want to stop the war he's threatening?" Annabeth asked with a look of disbelief. I'm not talking to you, brat. So here's how this is gonna go. You don't talk unless talked to. I barely tolerate my own kids, so I am not taking attitude from one of Athena's, Ares said with a cold tone, as he glared at Annabeth, who quickly went silent upon hearing this. The others also went silent at this. The only thing that was heard was a TV nearby, which was showing a news report about what had happened back at the arch and was showing images of Percy and Naruto, which Percy noticed and tapped Naruto and pointed at the TV. Yay, you kids really messed up back there, Ares said with a chuckle seeing this, as the waitress approached their table. Here's your food and drinks, the waitress said, as she came back with plates of burgers and fries on one tray and some drinks on another tray, which she soon placed on the table, before she walked off. As everyone started to eat, Ares waited a few moments as he watched them. Okay, let's get to business. You kids need help, right? You need money and a ride to where you need to go, Ares said, as he grabbed a burger and took a bite. Yay, Percy said as he nodded at this, wondering what the god of war was getting at. Well, I'm willing to help you kids out, for a small favor, Ares said with a grin. What kind of favor? Grover asked with a raised eyebrow. You see, recently, I left my shield behind at this amusement park while on a date and I need you to go get it for me, Ares said, as he ate some fries. Why not get it yourself? Naruto asked curiously. Because it's part of my brother's territory and quite frankly, I'm not in the mood to deal with him, Ares said, as he lightly scoffed. And why would we want to do something for you, when we have limited time to do a quest that we are already on? Annabeth asked with an annoyed tone. Ares' eyes narrowed at this, as he looked at Annabeth again. We will do it, Percy quickly said, hoping to distract the god of war. Great. You two can go and the satyr and blonde can stay, as collateral, so you don't get cute and try to leave, Ares said as he nodded at Percy, before he gestured to Naruto and Grover. We are not letting you, Annabeth was saying, before she was cut off. It's fine, Grover said, as he put his hand on Annabeth's shoulder. Yay, it's just a small detour. You guys can do this quick, then we get out of here, Naruto said, as he nodded at his two friends. Fine, but we get to talk to them before we go, Annabeth said with a firm tone. That's fine with me. Just don't wander off you two, Ares said, as he took out his phone. The group nodded, as they got up and walked towards the door, so they could talk while still in view of Ares. Don't worry, we can handle staying at a diner for a little bit, Grover said to Percy, who looked nervous at the idea of leaving them here. Yay. Plus, he seems to like me at least, so it shouldn't be that bad, Naruto said as he nodded. Naruto, you need to be careful. Just because you're of his blood, doesn't mean that he will show you any loyalty, Annabeth whispered to Naruto, as she pulled him close so he would hear her. Naruto frowned at this, as he knew Annabeth was thinking about how her mom had abandoned her back at the arch, but he said nothing to this as he nodded. Annabeth nodded back at this, before she and Percy left the diner, while Naruto and Grover approached Ares' table. It was later and after being on his phone for a bit, Ares had actually started talking to Grover, who was trying to get some kind of information out of him, which was impressive to Naruto. So, Naruto said, as he tried to think of something to say to his grandfather. Before you ask, I have no idea who your dad is, kid. All I know is that your dad is from the Chinese pantheon. At least, that's what your mom said, when dad was giving her attitude over it, Ares said with a chuckle at the memory. Naruto frowned at this, as he was hoping to find out something, but he should have figured Ares knowing was a long shot. As this was happening, Percy and Annabeth entered the diner, with Percy carrying a shield, which he slammed on the table in front of Ares. You could have mentioned that we were heading into Hephaestus territory and that you left it there, while on a date with his wife, Percy said with an annoyed tone, as he looked at Ares. Naruto's eyes widened at this, before he scowled at this, as he remembered what his mom had told him about the Forge God and how even as a kid, he felt sympathy for the god. Hey, you lived right. Now, follow me, Ares said, as he grabbed the shield with a chuckle and stood up and led them out of the diner. He led them to a parking lot, where a big truck whose back doors were open was waiting. Here you go. This will take you all the way to Vegas, Ares said, as he handed Percy a backpack which he took. Percy nodded at this as he, Annabeth and Grover got into the back of the truck, with Naruto following after them. Hold on there, Blondie, Ares said, as he tapped Naruto on the shoulder, stopping him from entering the back of the truck. What? Naruto asked, as he looked at his grandfather. I have a proposal for you, Ares said with a grin. Naruto raised an eyebrow at this, while the others watched this, curious on what was going on. Seeing as your dad is dragging his feet with you, how about I take you off his hands? Ares said with a smirk, as he looked at Naruto. Naruto's eyes widened at this while Percy, Annabeth and Grover looked surprised at this. Normally I wouldn't do this, but you have some talent, Plus, you laid out one of Echidna's stupid pets in one punch, which is impressive, even if it was young. So what do you say, kid? Ares said with a grin. Forget it, Naruto said with a firm tone, after a few moments of thought. Ares raised an eyebrow at this, as his smile faded. Sorry Gramps, but with how you tend to treat family from what I have seen so far, I think that I'll stick with whoever my dad is, as quite frankly, he at least probably cares more than you do, Naruto said with a look of defiance on his face, as he looked at Ares. Percy and Grover lightly smiled at this, while Annabeth sighed at this, as while she agreed with what he said, Naruto had pretty much just insulted his grandfather, but before she could tell him this, a brightly glowing symbol appeared over Naruto's head, getting everyone's attention. After a few moments, the light died down and everyone could see what the symbol was. It was what looked like a stone monkey holding a peach in one hand and a staff in the other. Naruto's eyes widened at this, as he recalled a story his mother told him back when he was a child and how one of his favorite stories, the story of the Monkey King. Seeing this, Ares scowled in annoyance. It had to be that damn monkey, he said with a tone of anger and annoyance. Play It will fit me just as well from Black Myth Wukong. Sorry to disappoint you, Gramps, Naruto said with a smirk, as the symbol over his head disappeared. Hey. You may be smiling now kid, but will you be so confident when your dad's enemies show up, now that it's open season on you? Ares asked with a cruel smirk, as he disappeared in a bright flash of light. As this happened, in the forest nearby, what looked like humanoid dog men, who were wearing kimonos and carrying swords and spears were coming out of the forest, looking at Naruto, now that the god of war's protection was gone. Looks like we have trouble, Percy said, as he took out his sword. Before Tama shoved him into the truck, making him yell in surprise. Sorry guys, this is my problem, Naruto said, as Tama slammed the doors shut, just as the truck started. Naruto, Grover and Annabeth yelled from inside the truck. I'll meet you in Vegas, Naruto yelled, as he turned to look at the dogman, while the truck took off down the road. As the dogman laughed at this and approached Naruto, the golden needle in Naruto's ear started to shake. Huh? Naruto asked as he felt this, but before he could do anything, Tama grabbed it and shoved it into Naruto's hands. As soon as it was in his hands, it grew bigger and changed into what looked like a golden well-made Guandao spear. Naruto looked at the spear in awe, before he smiled and spun the staff weapon a bit in his hands, before he rested it on his shoulders, as the dogmen surrounded him. Let's see how I handle this weapon, Naruto said with a cheeky grin, as they pounced at him. Thanks for watching, also remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.